Hey all, here OS Reviews. In this video, we're taking a closer look at the soundcore by Anker AeroClips. I think we've established at this point that these clip-style buds are all about the style and being fashionable. It's really the third generation attempt from soundcore. Previously, we've seen the C30i as well as the C40i, which improved on the audio quality, made it slightly more comfortable using soft touch rubber instead of a rigid plastic. And now with the AeroClips, it's the most refined iteration yet. Instead of being built fully out of plastic, they're now using a titanium memory wire in the loop that gently clips over the ear. The material here feels softer than ever, and they also claim to have improved microphones. There's now 4 beam-forming mics. That's a bit of a mouthful compared to 2 microphones on the original model. So hopefully that means conferencing as well as phone calls should be clearer on the AeroClips. And upon release, they have already received a design award, coming in pretty vibrant colors including champagne mist, or a rather unique rosy brown, as well as a more conservative all-black midnight shade. So that's all great, and undeniably they might be the most stylish looking headphones from soundcore to date, but I still feel that some of the decisions here are wild. And I'm saying that from a place of love because there are so many options you can pick between even among soundcore's own products. In fact, if you're not afraid of perhaps a slightly larger design, you can pick something like the Aero Fit 2s, which were also released a couple of months back. Having the same Aero in the name implies that, likewise, this is a pair of open-sounding headphones, where it's not going to be completely sealed inside of the ear canal, just like on the AeroClips, so you have awareness of what's going on around you, kind of like having ambient mode turn on. But likewise, all of these headphones don't really have active noise cancellation because there's nothing really sealing off the noise. But back to my point, the reason why I think it's complicated is because if, again, you're okay with more of a slightly larger design, you can pick something like this, which, in my opinion, still looks rather sleek, even if it isn't as small as the AeroClips that perhaps resembles earrings instead. But on these, you gain functionality, including LDAC support. They are high-res audio wireless certified, compared to on all of the clip-style headphones are missing that codec, so you only have the standard Bluetooth SBC and AAC for audio transmission. So you can simply pop it onto a pad here to begin charging up the battery, which is a feature missing on the flagship AeroClip style headphones, along with a more compact design having slightly smaller drivers inside as well, so 12mm here versus almost 20mm. The list really just goes on and on there. So you get the idea. For a similar price point, this one here is really all about the style, and definitely refined compared to the C30 and C40i, but it's also more expensive, which is why, again, I think some of these decisions are a little wild. I would have liked them to also try and incorporate a few more features from the AeroFits, whether that's wireless charging on the case or having some high-res audio wireless certifications, would have made it feel like a better value in my opinion. But again, if you like the way these look, style and fashion is really the main selling point here. The saving grace for the AeroClips, though, are twofold. The first being it is indeed the most comfortable clip-style headphones. In fact, it might be point blank one of the most comfortable wireless buds that I've ever worn. It's incredibly lightweight, and I'm glad to see it's not just pretty looking, but actually does secure itself without adding too much stress or strain. The second point is audio quality, or I should say the tuning of these 12mm drivers are excellent. It's not too surprising considering that soundcore, I would say for the most part, rarely misses. These days, they've had multiple generations of headphones and audio products now, and comparing them with the C40i's and C30i's in particular, I felt like they were even more refined, with a satisfying mix of bass, surprisingly, as well as clear mids, as well as trebles, minimal distortion, super clean sounding, and also sufficient volume for them to be highly enjoyable for music listening, even though they are, again, lacking a high-res audio wireless certification. So at its core, good ergonomics as well as good sound are still attributes that you can expect to find here, thankfully. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Is having a pair of buds which are styled after more of a fashion accessory something that you think makes sense? Would you be willing to pay a bit more for a pair that is more stylish? Otherwise, packaging here is quite minimal, and it touts 8 hours of battery life for continuous music listening, plus 24 additional hours with the battery case, and they are IPX4 rated, matching what we saw on the C40Is. You have also a touch control built into the ring here, so this surface you can tap on to control things like volume, play pause music, as well as access voice assistance. You can reassign those controls using the companion app, available for both iOS, iPhones, as well as Android devices. And there are some options silicone sleeves that you can pop on as well if you want a tighter grip. Final two specs here include multi-point connectivity, so you are able to pair to two devices simultaneously, including a phone and a computer, and it will automatically switch back and forth based on whatever device is playing back audio, as well as having quick charging support. So just 10 minutes in the case will get you additional 3 hours of music listening time, which is actually improved compared to the fast charging on the C40Is, where 10 minutes gave you 2 hours of listening. Now inside here you have the optional sleeves. If it feels loose, you can pop them on. But again, these are now soft silicone compared to the hard, rigid plastic found on the C30Is, which were definitely a bit tighter and not quite as comfy. Plus, you also find a standard USB Type-C charging cable. So a closer look at the battery case here, it is quite compact, very clean looking. In fact, it is a touch shorter compared to the C40/C30i from before. Can slide pretty easily into a pocket, and this at least is one advantage of having a more compact design, a smaller wing there versus the AeroFits. So as you can tell here, it's going to take up less space when you are traveling or on the go. Now when you open up the door here, it will automatically turn on and start to pair with your device pretty quickly. As expected of a flagship pair of wireless buds, they are built quite well, so the hinge feels very robust and it's secured using magnets. We can immediately see that dramatic ring profile, which is definitely striking as far as design is concerned, a little bit more original feeling. And here they are next to the aforementioned AeroFits, as well as the previous C30, C40Is were a little bit more generic and plain by contrast. Now a closer look at the actual buds here next. It almost reminds me of mini headphones because of this band design, but again, it is super soft. It's coated with a layer of rubber on it, so nothing here feels rigid or harsh, and as a result, these do feel very delicate when being worn. Located on the edge is going to be a mesh there for the speaker driver, for that open sound, as well as the multiple beamforming mics, plus the touch sensor here for controlling playback options. You can definitely bend it and it's not going to snap or break. Thanks to the titanium wire underneath, it's easy to pop on and also pop off, but at the same time doesn't feel too loose either. Here's a side-by-side profile look with the C30 and C40Is. As you can tell, are a little bit more chunky, not quite as refined. Some of the pieces also have connecting ridges to them versus this being more of a seamless one-piece design. And then also the AeroFits, as you can tell here, are going to be, of course, much larger, with more of an obvious wing there that goes behind the ear, but still is an open pair. And before we take a closer look at the companion app, that titanium memory wire, by the way, has been rated for over 20,000 bends, so it should be quite robust. And here's also a comparison between some of the other clip-style buds currently on the market. Granted, this is still going to be far cheaper compared to the Bose's Ultra Opens, which are almost $300, which is kind of ridiculous at this point, as well as Huawei's free clips also are north of $250. So this is still half the price of that, but out of Soundcore's own collection of products, it is already climbing up a little bit versus the C30Is in particular are around half the cost of the current flagship AeroClips. And again, it's roughly the same price that you'll pay for the AeroFits as well. So anyways, the Soundcore app is still the same one found on all of their wireless headphones and audio products, and it pairs very quickly once the battery door here is opened. You'll be able to gauge the battery percentage remaining on the left, right, as well as the case as well, so it gives you a good gauge, and once inside, you can tweak some of the EQ controls, including Soundcore Signature, which honestly sounds great. You can also find options including bass or treble boosting, classical music, podcasts for speech and audiobooks, and also a volume enhancement mode. Now, there is a custom EQ profile here as well that you can use the frequency sliders here yourself to change and shape the way they sound. But unlike some of their more flagship grade larger headphones where there is a Hear ID inspired mode that does a hearing test and then creates a custom EQ for you automatically, you won't find that feature here, so you have to adjust the sliders yourself to get that level of precision. Honestly, the default tuning with Soundcore Signature sounds good enough that I think it's forgivable, but on principle, I do find it just a little frustrating because it could have really been an opportunity for them to further delineate these from the previous models, the budget and mid-range, by adding a few more features. But again, there is no wireless charging, there is no LDAC, and similarly, there's still no custom hearing test mode as part of the EQ controls. You're able to remap what a double tap, triple tap will correspond to. For example, play pause or remapping that to volume up and down instead. Now, I would have liked to see maybe a few more options. Right now, you only have 2 commands in total, maybe for simplicity's sake, but there is no quad tap, for example, or long hold to access some more controls. So you have to kind of pick and choose the functions that you most commonly access, but at least you can remap them if desired. Finally, for dual connectivity, this is a place where you're able to, again, take a look at other devices that are currently paired to the headphones, and also a find headphone function that will play back a loud sound in case it's dropped underneath a sofa or table, but it doesn't have a built-in GPS tag or location tagging, so just keep that in mind. Now, under more advanced settings, you're able to check and see if there are any firmware updates, plus whether you want prompts to be turned on or off. So there is touch tone, which means if you are clicking on the touchpad here, it will slightly beep to give you confirmation, but you can turn that off if you find it to be a little annoying. And last but not least, on the main homepage of the Soundcore app, you're still able to go into the middle tab and find some relaxation soundscapes. And they're actually calling this, interestingly, AI brainwave audio. These are essentially nature sounds and white noises that you can access to help you unwind, fall asleep, calm down. But what's kind of interesting is they claim to be using AI to maybe generate some of these soundscapes for you, as opposed to being completely pre-recorded tracks. So theoretically, there shouldn't be any blips or cuts in the middle because it's non-looping. It's always being generated second per second. You can find tracks here including kind of a starry sky, ocean, forest to play with. So only 3 tracks here, but within each one, you can further make it to become brighter versus heavier sounding, as well as play around with other elements, including a singing bowl, wooden fish, as well as other bubble sounds, rain sounds, and interlace them on top of the track, building your own soundscape, plus turn on and off spatial audio as well. But if you're looking for traditional pre-recorded tracks, you can still find them in the section down below over here. Things like firewood, for example. It's kind of the legacy section that we've seen in the past. So although these aren't their sleep buds, which they also make, even if you are falling asleep in a chair, it can still be quite comfortable, and you can leverage some of those built-in sound effects using this middle tab. So all in all, it's a simple app, but connects pretty quickly. You can access the main controls. Just wish they would have added the custom hearing ID mode for EQ. Aside from that, I don't have too many complaints here. As for sound quality and performance, we've kind of already spoiled that at the beginning of this video, but thankfully I never got disconnected. Felt like the Bluetooth 5.4 chip here was quite stable, and quite impressively for a pair that are so small, they feel surprisingly full sounding. In fact, if you didn't tell me, I would have imagined they had larger drivers inside. Sure, if you're comparing them side by side with the AeroFit 2s, you can still tell that these have maybe a touch more bass when it comes to drum beats, having more space for the resonance chamber, but on the AeroClips, I would say they are already superior to many regular style wireless buds, including the Apple AirPods, for example. So on these, the impact is quick, but I never found it to be lacking either. It still provided sufficient energy to the tracks with a touch of warmth, but at the same time, I would say mids and trebles definitely where these shine the most. Instrumentals, including guitar tracks, as well as vocals, sounded super enjoyable, well balanced, plenty of nuances, and good separation as well. Plus, they never sounded too harsh when playing back trebles, as well as, again, listening to vocals. And I would say, again, compared to the C40Is, there is a subtle improvement when it comes to clarity and details that you can discern. Maybe it's not going to be night and day, but I would say maybe a 10 or 20% improvement there. So again, if you are a C40i owner, it might not be enough to justify upgrading just yet on the merit of sound, since they're still using regular Bluetooth codecs. But if you have a C30i, then it is a more significant upgrade. The 30i's sound just a bit more mushy, a bit more compressed, and definitely not as much details when you are wearing them side by side. That it's a more significant upgrade. And the beamforming mics do indeed function well when it comes to picking up your voice. So here's a quick demo of that. Quality from the soundcore AeroClip. How do I sound? Test 1, 2, 3. So even if there's a bit of wind noise and background chatter, it does a good job of isolating your voice versus the setup on the C30s and C40Is. So there we have it. That's been a closer look at the Soundcore by Anker AeroClips. As we mentioned at the beginning of this video, these clip style buds are really all about the styling as well as offering better ergonomics. So if you like the way that these look, I would say that the sound quality mostly holds up. That being said, again, it would have been nice if they offered a few more features matching what they've done on the Aero Fits from before, considering that these are the flagship pair out of the more stylish clip-style buds that they have. It is for sure a more pretty presentation compared to what we saw on the C30Is and C40Is from before, granted with a price bump to match as well. So if you are interested, you can check out more details in the links down below. For now, that's been our video. That has been the Aero Clips.